Hello, good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Countless Vlogcast. I'm your host, Justin Rich. Today, my guest is Keith Dent, certified relationship coach and author of In the Paint: How to Win at the Game of Love. So, hope you guys enjoyed the show. Tune in. You can watch it afterwards on Facebook, my page, and on YouTube under the Countless Vlogcast. Alrighty. Good evening, Keith. How are you?
Hey, Justin, how you doing?
I'm doing well. So, tell us a little about yourself.
Well, I'm just glad to be here. Thank you for having me on tonight. My name is Keith Dent. I'm a certified relationship coach out here out of Jersey. But of course, with virtual, I work out anywhere. I've been doing it for the past 10 years. I'm also an author of In the Paint: How to Win at the Game of Love. And also, I'm a fellow StreamYarder like yourself. I have my own show called Black Men Speak, and it's a show that helps empower Black men so they can be their best selves and let people out here know that they're taking care not only of themselves, their families, but their communities as well.
Okay, great. So let's get right into it. The big discussion last week has been the Jaden and Will Smith fiasco relationship in August Alsina. So what are your thoughts on that relationship and the whole that situation?
Well, it's interesting. Of course, my initial thoughts, and I didn't think someone else talked about it, is that it was kind of a setup for their show, the Red Table Talk, Jada's show, Red Table Talk, whereby when I watched it, of course, because you start to hear the comments back and forth, and when I watched it, there were a couple of things that came to mind. One, that it was 4 years ago when this came out, or when this actually affair happened. So I'm sure they've had their time to heal, deal with the issue. Why it came out now, who knows? I mean, I do have an idea. Two, they were having their challenges. They had intimated during the show that they were on a break. And so they were on a break, and almost to the point where they thought the relationship was over. So Jada ended up, falling in for this August guy, and a relationship ensued. And a lot of reasons were around that, which she mentioned. And then three, the last thing that's a little bit more in the cynical on my side, is that it was just great marketing. They were able to push people to the Red Table Talk, maybe people that hadn't watched before or whatever, because of this, controversy that they had.
Okay, great. So next question. Do you believe that people compare themselves too much to celebrities and talk too much about their lives and not focus enough on their own problems and issues?
I wouldn't say that they focus on them solely. I think they try to use celebrities kind of to justify maybe their actions. So, hey, what's the big word out there is entanglement. So I saw people posting on their Facebook pages is that I survived an entanglement. And I mean, I know it's tongue in cheek and it was probably funny, but I think that a lot of people say, look, here's a celebrity that people admire. People admire Will Smith, Jada Pinkett Smith, just for being the fact that they're a Black couple, one, that they're open about their relationship, and people try to gravitate to that. So if you're trying to justify yourselves as being a relationship like that, or use that, I would kind of caution that, because no one's really in the public eye as much as they are, and they probably have a hard time. They have a hard time living that, because they just want the individuals to know that their life is really challenging, and if we had to live in a bubble like they do, it'd be really tough.
Okay, we have a question from the audience. The question is, do you think Or do we think Jada was being predatory with August's age and previous drug addictions and issues in the past?
Well, she mentioned that she was trying to help him. And I think, if you're not grounded or solid in what maybe how you're feeling, your emotions, you could get caught up. So it's not like he was and I didn't know that. I don't know the age, so don't hit me on that. But I mean, I'm assuming he was an adult, or at least over 18, and she got caught up because her emotions were also in line with how she was feeling. He looked good, I'm sure, and she was also vulnerable. So who knows how it could happen? Hey, he comes in and just is showing her affection, or who knows? It can happen. And so what's interesting, if that was the other way around, so if it was a guy and a young lady, no one would ever mention about being predatory. So it's a little bit of that double standard going on there.
Okay, great. So to transition a little bit too, what do you think about the disconnect between men and women on social media too? Because I see a lot of posts with women and men posting single. I'm single, I'm looking for like a relationship too. But I never see few people talking about actually getting engaged or relationships too. So what do you think the big disconnect is between men and women, social media, and like real life?
Well, I don't know if there's necessarily there's a disconnect. I think when couples, especially younger couples, they probably try to keep that private. So you're not going to see a lot of those things posted online, because with that, everyone gets to see about your relationship, how's it going, what the issues are, and we know there's trolls out there, and everyone has a comment. So that's probably one of the reasons why we don't see a lot of couples posting. You'll see, of course, anniversary pictures, or if there's some major occasion, but I think for the most part, the relationships are not going to be, they don't want to put their information on social media. And because of a whole number of factors, privacy, you don't want everybody knowing your business. And especially if things don't work out, you don't want to have to deal with the backlash. I do think there is some issues for, as far as, men and women, when it comes to being on the same page. I've heard there's been a big movement lately with men, like, look, leaving women alone and wanting to just do their own thing. And I think it's for a couple of reasons. One, because women now are, I wouldn't say women now are in a position where they can make a living. They don't have to solely rely on the man for their life. And I think there's been a little bit of a backlash with that. And some men are actually getting hurt by that. And so instead of dealing with their issues and acknowledging that they're, vulnerable and hurt, they just like, well, look, I'm going to give up relationships and women altogether.
Okay, great. So with that being said, do you have any advice for those looking for a potential relationship and a mate?
Well, yeah. I recently wrote a book called In the Paint. And one of the things in the paint, how to win the game of love. And I used basketball analogies for a couple of reasons. One, I think it's easy to understand, and especially for men when we are not good at communicating. So I think one of the main things is one of the challenges nowadays is that people don't use dating as a way to get to know the person. I think with the fast pace of life nowadays, everybody's on a timetable. So if you don't show yourself to be worthy right away, then they're out, and then you have to start over again. So one of the main things that I wanted to talk about. So use dating for, like using the basketball analogy, use dating like practice. So one of the parts of my book is that there was a coach, and people may know, people may not, but John Wooden, he was a coach for UCLA, and he was one of the premier coaches that had, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar played for, Bill Walton. And so what he used practice for was a way to get to know his players and understand his players. And he would take really copious notes. So when it got to, so the next day, if he needed to tweak something, he had the notes. And the goal of that was to make his team better. And so in my book, I talk about that, where you should use your dates and take notes. Maybe not, of course, right after the date, but at least set some time. What went well? What did you like about the person you were with? And then use that the next time you have a date. Or if it didn't work well, why didn't it work well? So when you meet the next person, you will know what you have to do. One, what you have to do differently, and two, what the person that you, the mate that you really want to reach, what are some of the qualities that they possess?
Okay, great. So moving forward, what needs to happen for like us to create more like marriage and relationships moving forward?
It's a great question. I think in order to create marriages, and this may be a little bit unconventional, but I do think we shouldn't wait so long. So I've been married 22 years. And I got married when I was 20, and I'm just trying to backtrack, but when I was 28. And so the thing about relationships, and when you don't think about, the clock starts ticking when you have kids. When you have kids, the relationship changes drastically. So when you start later, so let's say right now, the average age, I think, for marriage for guys is 28 and for women is 26. So when you start your relationship that late, so then the next part is going to be kids, because you don't want to wait too late to have your kids, health reasons or just whatever plans that you have. So you really don't get to know your partner in enough time. And so before you know it, once the kids come, the relationship changes. So one, I think we should just start to forget about what we see in the media. We should start to try to marry earlier. But with that said, is then in our dating, we have to start to be more vulnerable in our relationships and ask the right questions. And those questions should be based on what you want to see in a partner. And then if after you've had, and it may take 1, 2, or even 3 dates to ask those questions. And if you get those answers and they actually mesh with what you're looking for, then hey, move forward. If they don't, then you have to move on. And I think that's where the disconnect is, that, oh, we expect they're going to change, or they're going to get better. We're going to see the potential in the person. And then when they don't, we have to start over, or we're jaded with relationships altogether.
Okay, so what are some methods people can go about finding somebody, like some of the resources and like outlets to find like not a potential partner, like even like starting out like dating to meet people?
So one of the things now, which is kind of, I guess, scary now, is it's a little challenging with COVID. With the COVID that's out there, it's really a little bit difficult to meet people. I'm sure people would be a little nervous to kind of go out now, but maybe not. Now with things lessening, it may be a little bit challenging. But a lot of things is you should really look at the things that you like doing and do those things. Like, for example, so if you're an entrepreneur, you should go to a lot of networking events. There's always people at networking events. So go to those things. I'm sure there's even virtual networking events as well. And one of the things they try to do is they try to have little one-on-one sessions where you can get to know somebody. And so who knows what can happen from there. Another good way is to, and you may sound corny, but volunteering at an organization. You want to run into individuals that have kind of the same mindset as you. So if you're a Christian and you go to church, volunteer, because you have to find an opportunity where you can talk as well. I mean, in church is going to be a little challenge because you're there for the Lord. You're there to kind of learn and be a better Christian. It's going to be hard to really talk about what your likes and dislikes are then. But if there's events that the church has, you should try to go to those.
Okay, great. So another question, for those that have given up and feel discouraged with like dating now to like the older crowds and like even people, the younger crowds too, with social media too, like it's like the main resource, it seems though too. Like you said, like finding people, like volunteering, entrepreneur, networking too. But do you have any advice for people that may have given up or feel discouraged in this dating scene?
I think if you've given up, you should reach out to someone, maybe a therapist, and ask why. Because I've always looked at those things. If the relationship didn't work out, it was a learning experience. I think we put too much emphasis on the relationships that just don't work out. And that we're never going to find anyone. But hey, there's always people out there that you can meet, and you just never know what the plan is in store, what God may have in store for you, or if the stars are aligned. You just never know, so you just can't give up. But if you are struggling with maybe your self-esteem or why you pick certain people, then that's maybe a reason to talk to someone.
Okay, great. So in terms of relationships too, how do you make it work too, from stages, from like the butterfly stage to the like I guess relationship stage to like I guess if people are like in a rut or like having problems too. If you could break it down by stage.
Okay. In the butterfly stage, things are great. You have that wonderful, pit in your stomach. And so that's really the time where you want to ask the right questions, where it is you want to go. And so once you get to that, and let's say you're married, you just got married, you really want to know what the person's personality is. And I kind of one of the things I lead with that in my book, and it's called the temperament survey. And then I also use that when I'm the first time I meet clients, because your temperament is going to be the main thing that's going to drive everything that you do in life. It's going to drive your how you approach work, how you deal with your finances, how you communicate, maybe even when you're intimate. So I try to do that because it helps the couples understand their communication style. So when you're kind of in that wedding phase or a little bit after that, it's good to understand your temperament survey. And if you're in a rut, I'd say if you're having communications issues, by all means, if you can't handle it yourself, then I would reach out to someone. But a good actual communication system or a way you can better communicate is really doing active listening. And that's where you would someone talks about what one of the issues are, and as the partner, you have to kind of restate what the person says, and that helps them so then the person that actually had the issue can acknowledge, yes, that's how I'm feeling, and then they discuss it. And the great thing about that is that the person actually feels heard. And so then now that they felt heard without judgment, then they can go ahead and start communication. So finally, if that's not actually working well, then by all means, reach out to you could reach out to me as a relationship coach or a therapist in your area that does relationships, and you can get some help and support.
Okay, great advice. So let's talk about like old ideals and perceptions. So if somebody doesn't change their like ideals and perceptions if they haven't worked for them in the past, or like they're like not like up to speed with like new age ideals. Like, what any advice for them too? Like, how should they go about that too? Like, I know everybody has their own perceptions and thoughts, but it's hard to change though. But if you could like speak on that a little bit, it'd be great.
I think you have to peel back the layers, and that takes a lot of work. We have a lot of hangups, especially in the African American community. We've seen a lot of pain. Probably at times have not seen what healthy relationships look like, and so when we go into them, we have a hard time making the adjustments that we need to make in order to make relationships work. And that's why I like the sports analogies that I use in my book. I mean, do you want to be the best player that doesn't win, or do you want to give up a little bit and work with your team so you can win? Hey, Michael Jordan, he didn't win his first few years because he felt he had to be a certain way. He had carry his team, and it didn't work. He didn't start to win until he trusted his teammates and believed in what they could do on the court. And relationships are the same way. If you don't trust your partner to do certain things or to be a certain way, and you feel you have to be guarded and not share and not be vulnerable, your relationship's not going to work. So you really have to think about those things.
Okay, so part two of that question. What are some other issues that need to be addressed and unlearned in terms of relationships and dating and I guess like self care, like as individuals and as like partners?
Well, yeah, self-care is really self-care is going to be ongoing. I have to say, because one of the misconceptions I think also in relationship is that you're not going to change over time, and so if you feel that your spouse in 10 years, 15, 20 is going to be the same, if you're blessed enough to have a relationship that long, that's not going to happen. They're going to change, and so therefore you either have to change with it, or be I guess open to your partner being different and not being that person. Because I do hear that a lot. Well, this is not the same person that I married. But if your expectation is that the person you married is not going to grow or go through different iterations of themselves, then that's a fantasy world.
Okay, great. So you've been married for almost 20 plus years now, and you're an expert and you have a book. If you could talk about how do you measure compatibility, and I guess you could break it down by like stages too, in terms of like talking stage to going on dates.
Well, interesting thing is I think I'm not a big astrology person, but I know a lot of people use that for compatibility. But I do think if you understand personalities, temperaments, you can be compatible with anyone. If you are willing to be open and communicate and learn from the person. So, because good example, my wife and I, we are different in a lot of ways. She likes running. I like biking. I'm a big sports person. She likes sports, but she's not as passionate in sports. She likes pop, and Prince is her favorite artist. I'm more of a jazz person. So, those are differences right there. And I could go down the list, go on and on. But The relationships work because I respect. We're able to communicate, and when there are challenges, we try to talk them out. Now, does that say we get angry at one another? Sure, those things are going to happen in any relationship, and so you just have to learn to understand what the issues are and to work with them.
Okay, great. So this question may be different for everybody too, but what does it mean to be consistent in a relationship, in marriage?
Consistency, I like to call that, walking the talk. Consistency is just doing and saying what you're going to do. And you hear that a lot. I usually hear that a lot when women are talking about their husbands. And they say, well, he's not as consistent as he used to be. He used to do this for me. He no longer does do that. We used to be able to talk, communicate. He no longer communicates. And then I'm at my end of my rope. But I think it's really more saying what it is that you're going to do and doing it. And if not, don't try to justify why it wasn't done. Acknowledge that you made a mistake and you move on.
Okay, great. So what are some ways people can develop chemistry and connectivity, like like the beginning stage to the middle stage?
I think you develop chemistry and connectivity by doing activities. And I know doing activities that each of you enjoy. So you can see what it is that you each enjoy doing, and you can connect around. And so that's interesting. That's the thing about sports that makes it so great, is that each night is different. LeBron may score 30, 40 points one night, but then there may be another one of the players that may get hot and they have a career night. And so but that's in the moment, and it's something that will stand up and people can enjoy. And I think a lot of times couples don't try to explore different things. They stick to what they know and not just go out and try something different. And so if both partners haven't done a certain thing, but they go ahead, and they're open to trying it, I think that's a bonding moment that they can always share. And it may carry them over to being more open to doing things, and also just open when challenges come, because you can look back and say, hey, we experienced something that we had never done before, and now that we're having these issues, we know we'll be able to get through them because of the experiences we had.
Okay, great. So final question. Let's talk about the importance of therapy in relationships too, in terms of good and bad. Because it could be going there to start the relationship or going there to fix an issue. So talk about the importance of therapy.
I think the therapy is important, and we don't do enough. We don't do enough of it as the African American community. I think because we are, and that may be a couple of reasons. One, we don't know. There's not really a huge network of African American therapists and coaches that we know, so we are more apt to not take advantage of it. And so I think we just have to do a better job. And that's one thing about the Black-owned network that was on Facebook, is that you're able to ask questions, and people can always refer those businesses or those coaches and therapists that they're looking for. So that's a great point. So I think we just, one, need to do it more often. And then two, we also should do it before we get married. Because I think a lot of times, and I noticed this when I used to go to marriage events or like marriage where they would show the dress and all the different vendors. And I would be there because I thought that was the perfect place to meet couples. And I would get there, and couples didn't want to talk to me at that moment because they're like, ooh, if any issues come up, then we're not going to get married. And I'm not going to have my great party and great wedding. But I think that should be done more. And because it'll help address those issues that you'll have that you're kind of kicking down the road, and then they'll start to come up. Usually when the kids come. And like, look, oh, he's just not helping me out. And it's like, well, and you can say, well, did he really help you out back then when you first got married? Well, no, he didn't. But now it's an issue because there's more responsibility at stake. So I think it is helpful to do it, right when you get married. And then finally, especially when you're having challenges, you should reach out to someone and not rely solely on your friends for support. And I think we, as a community, really rely a lot on that. And your friends are not necessarily going to tell it to you straight. They're going to side with you the majority of the time, and then before it's too late. Or another thing, which I failed to mention, we hide our pain. Couples don't hide their pain, and then they'll just go ahead and get divorced. And then you're like, well, why? You could have easily, if you talk to someone, at least given it a shot. What's the worst thing that can happen? I mean, and you find out it doesn't work, but at least you're not in heated argument, and you've talked to a third party that can maybe justify those feelings, and then you're okay to get the divorce.
Okay, great. So I'd like to end these with a positive message from you. Any advice you'd like to share that we didn't cover?
No, I think one thing is we just need to take a breath. We're going through, especially in our community, there's just a lot of pain right now. The gun violence and everything is going up. The coronavirus is rampant in our communities. A lot of us are out of work. So, really take stock into the person that you're in a relationship with. Acknowledge something special that you like about them, that you love about them. And then we need to give out some more hugs. I think if we do that, our relationships will get better, and we'll also break some walls down too.
Okay, great. So on this, it's a chance to plug yourself to your tags, social media, websites, and your book, so people can find you and support you.
Yeah. So if you, the best thing to do, here's the book here, In the Paint: How to Win in the Game of Love. If you're interested in the book, you could hit me up on my email. It's info at Keith Dent. That's KEITH Dent DENT.com. You can find me on social media a couple of ways. So I have a relationship group called Couples Conversation. There we talk about, I usually put up questions every day to help people discuss conversations in a much better way. You can find me on Instagram at Keith, KEITH_Dent. And then you can also find me on the Facebook group Black Men Speak. And there it's just a topic to help our Black men. So, you can find me any of those ways. And I forgot, and the website, KeithDent.com.
Okay, thank you, Keith, for coming on and sharing your experience and advice for the audience out there, people that may need it, may not realize they need it. But thank you for coming on. I appreciate it.
Justin, thank you for having me, and you have a good night.
All right. This has been the Countless Vlogcast with Keith Dent, relationship coach, certified, and author of In the Paint: How to Win the Game of Love. Thank you guys for watching. You can find me on YouTube at the Countless Vlogcast and on Facebook, Justin Rich. Thank you guys for watching. All right.